Know, O friend, that a builder builds a huge palace and furnishes it with whatever is necessary. He or she then builds and furnishes a smaller palace from the same material. Can one say that the builder's main aim is not to build a third, smaller palace, and that the purposes for its construction are not related to the builder? You, humanity, are that smaller palace. Earth is a palace, and so is the universe. Know, O friend, that God makes himself known through his creatures and art, and loved through his mercy, bounties, and provisions. He manifests almost all his names for various reasons. Whoever understands perfectly why each name manifests itself and then explains it to others perfectly deserves to be addressed with the words, "But for you, I would not have created the worlds." He is such a firm, trustworthy bond between earth and the heavens that earth is connected to God's supreme throne by the rope woven in his heart. As a human being, he is the most honorable of creation. As a sample of humanity, he is the most perfect of living beings, and as an individual, he is the master and lord of the species honored with God's vicegerency on earth. He is the master of the messengers, leader of the pious, beloved of the Lord of the worlds, Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him and his family and companions until eternity. Conclusion. Whatever is suffered for God is good. It is sweet, even if apparently bitter, for it makes you taste the pleasure of supplicating and praying to him. Ibn Sam'un says, "Every speech unconcerned with him is idle talk." I am journeying to the hereafter. I have so many sins that even several lifetimes would not be enough to ask forgiveness for them. Thus, I entrust this task to my book. Alas, how pitiful, regrettable, and deplorable that I wasted my life, health, and youth in sin and rebellion for harmful, transcendent desires and fancies. What is left to my old age and ill health are sin and pain. With this heavy burden, dark face, and diseased heart, I approach the door of the grave for an eternal separation from the transcendent world. How humiliated I will be when my Lord orders, "Drive all hypocrites to the fire." O God, there is no shelter and refuge save the door of your compassion. O God, your rebellious servant has come acknowledging his sins, and he prays to you. If you forgive him, this is what you love to do. If you repel him, who else will have mercy on him? O God, I regret my sins and repent of them. I am ashamed of my evil words and deeds. Pour blessings into my heart from the world of holiness, so that fancies may be removed from my heart. I ask you to open the door of mercy with the call of Mevlana. O God, repeatedly I call, O God, O God, and utter things for God on your way. O God, guide me to the way leading to you. I am astray, looking for the right way. O God, I am not worthy of the highest floor of paradise, nor do I have strength to bear hellfire. Enable me to feel repentant of my sins and ask forgiveness for them, and forgive me, for you are the forgiver of sins, however great they are. To conclude, there are as many doors open toward God as there are parts of the book of the universe and its pages, and as many as there are compounds. The inner existence is superior to the outer existence in all aspects of life, consciousness, and perfection. Your unique facial features distinguish you from everyone else, although all faces have the same parts and structure. This shows that the Maker is infinitely independent and wise and has absolute free choice. You are a conscious work of art made with wisdom, one indicating the maker's attributes. The one who created you created the universe and its contents, for whatever is in you also exists in it. You are a restricted being, having a restricted body, lifetime, and power. So do not waste your life on transcendent things. The carnal soul mistakenly thinks that it is excluded from the sphere of the manifestations of destiny and divine attributes. One who gives light and existence and makes existence necessary must have these qualities, or else how could he give them? What a human soul desires most is permanence and perpetuity. Associating partners with God in a veiled form due to human egotism gradually turns into associating material causes as partners with God. Humanity was created to open and unveil the treasuries of divine names and attributes, be a luminous sign guiding to God, receive and reflect divine manifestations, be a light-giving moon reflecting the eternal power, and be a mirror for the manifestations of eternal beauty. If you please your Creator by abstaining from sins, obeying His commands, and doing righteous deeds, you also will please the Created. The necessarily existent being does not resemble the contingent in his essence, attributes, or acts. A lion's teeth and claws show that it is expected to tear, a melon's delight shows that it is for eating, and human potential shows that humanity is to worship God. Small animals are more intelligent and sophisticated in structure and subtler in art than large ones. All-encompassing provision does not exclude specific, individual provision. Most human beings do not give the proper respect due to the observed book of the universe and the glorious book of the Qur'an when it is recited and heard. At the times of daily prayers, imagine the Muslim world as a mosque, with Mecca being the mihrab and the Kaaba as the mihrab's central point. This mosque, in which generations pray, is continuously filled with and emptied of successive generations. Live today with honor and dignity what will live you tomorrow. Modern civilization values corrupting hypocrisy, show, and fame. When coming together to forge a sound unity, a community of women can acquire firm manliness, while a weak unity of men becomes woman-like. Divine unity is one of the clearest proofs of Muhammad's prophethood. The divine lordship's decoration, perfection, beautiful spectacles, and majesty, as well as the divinity's splendor, require observers to observe them in amazement. Just as the correspondence and similarities among things point to the Maker's oneness and unity, so do their orderly and purposeful dissimilarities and distinctions indicate that the Maker is all-wise and has absolute will, doing whatever He wills. Humans are the most unjust of all beings. Through His power's perfection, God subjugated all particles and compounds to His laws and commands of creation. Inertia and motionlessness, inactivity and non-change mean a kind of death or non-existence for a contingent thing, for its life and survival depend on activity and constant renewal. God makes Himself known through His creatures and art, and loved through His mercy, bounties, and provisions. Whatever is suffered for God is good, for it makes you taste the pleasure of supplicating and praying to Him. A supplication. The ninth treatise. A weave from the breezes of the Qur'an's guidance. In the name of God, the All-Merciful, the All-Compassionate. Praise be to God, the Lord of the worlds, for His mercy to the worlds through the messengership of Muhammad, the master of the messengers. Upon him, his family, and companions be peace and blessings. Know O friend, that creation, whether in this world or the world of the unseen, testifies that there is no deity but He. This is required and displayed by the cooperation and solidarity among creation's parts. The pillars of creation and all structures testify that there is no Lord but He, which is required and displayed by the similarity and correspondence among those pillars and structures. All organs and limbs of all earthly beings testify that there is no owner and master but He, which is required and displayed by their having almost the same formation and functions. All parts of all plants and animals testify that there is no director and organizer but He, which is required and displayed by the mutual helping among those parts. All subdivisions of these same parts testify that there is no trainer but He, which is required and displayed by the correspondence among individual members of species. The fact that they have almost the same organs and structures shows the same pen and indicates that the trainer is one. The diversity among countenances bears witness that the inscriber is absolutely free, doing whatever he wills. All cells forming these parts and organs testify that there is no disposer but He, and that disposal is possible only by His commands or laws of creation and operation. If the disposer were not one and single, there would have to be infinite disposers who are absolutely equal in terms of qualities and opposites, independent and dependent, unrestricted and restricted, and so on. All atoms forming these cells testify that there is no orderer but He, as is required and displayed by the similarities and correspondence among atomic structures, working, and functions. And with all its particles, the main substance of creation, ether, testifies that there is no deed but He, as is required and displayed by its simplicity, calmness, and immobility, as well as by the speed it shows in fulfilling the Creator's orders. Know, O friend, that no one has the right to complain about and object to the Maker of the universe. If such a demand were to be satisfied, thousands of instances of wisdom having parts in the general order of creation which rejects such a satisfaction would have to be violated or sacrificed. If truth had followed their caprices, the heavens and earth and all those who live in them would certainly have gone to ruin. O complaining one, how can you object and make your caprices the standard for the universe's order and your corrupt test as the measure of divine bounties? How do you know that what you see as a misfortune is not a blessing? Are you authorized to change the direction of creation's turning wheels to satisfy your trifling and worthless fancies? You can complain only to Him, not about Him, for what falls to your lot from Him is only a grain out of heaps of corn. One who is owned cannot be the owner. Know your place and do not overstep the limits of your authority. Know, O friend, that the one who operates in a cell operates in the whole body, for he must operate in a cell according to its relation with the body. The operation in a cell is under the command of the Creator of all things. How, O friend, can it befit the wisdom and attribute of preserving of the one who preserves the eggs of vermin and fish and the seeds of plants for wise, merciful purposes not to record and preserve your deeds? Those deeds are the seeds of trees that will yield their fruit in the hereafter. This is especially true in our case, since we are the bearers of His trust and His vast grants on earth. Every living being has the strong desire and inclination to preserve its life. This and the tendency in creation to reconcile opposites to continue life points out that worldly existence will result in eternal permanence through the manifestation of the names all living, all-preserving and everlasting. They also allude to a fact determined by divine destiny. Each perishable, transitory thing has a vital, permanent point or aspect. Know, O friend, that the one who preserves a fig tree's seed while it is changing into a fig and does not allow it to rot in the ground so that it can grow into a fig tree, that all-preserving and protecting one who protects all other plants and animals will not neglect the deeds of humanity, his wise grant on earth. Know, O friend, that meaning's material existence may change and be effaced, but the meaning continues to exist. A covering may be rent, but its essence or kernel remains. Clothes are worn out, but the body survives. The body is ruined, but the spirit survives. The body gets old, but ego remains young. Multiplicity and the multiple are divided and decay, but unity and the unitary remain permanent. Matter dissolves, but light endures. Despite its putting on different bodies and its numerous changes and different conditions, meaning endures from the beginning of its life to its end and maintains its unity. It does not change. This shows that it will pass over the ditch of death and, freed from its hooks and stripped of its body, continue on to eternity safe and sound. The strong tendency of material things to remain and survive points out that such simple things as meaning, light, and spirit, inclined to permanence, will remain eternally. Know, O friend, that the grandeur of God's divinity and its dignity and absolute independence require that all things should be at His control. Your physically small size and some of your seemingly unimportant states do not necessitate your being excluded from this control. Your distance from Him does not mean His being distant from you. The insignificance of some of your attributes and of your existence, your imperfect character, mind, and lifestyle, and your ignorance with regard to the universal wisdom in your existence do not exempt you from this control. The Creator's greatness does not require excluding small things from His control, as greatness necessitates being encompassing in controlling and independent in creating. Know, O friend, that as material, solid things get larger, they lose their sensitivity to delicate, subtle things. But light, when it expands and spreads, begins to pervade and penetrate more deeply into hidden and subtle things. As light becomes more refined, like X-rays, it becomes more penetrating. If this is so with the dimensions of contingent existence, imagine how it is with the light of lights, necessarily existent and single, knower of all secrets and the hidden, and the disposer of night and day. His greatness necessitates His being all-encompassing, penetrating, and pervasive. Know and see how the Qur'an considers ordinary people's level of understanding as they are the absolute majority. When a matter can be explained in several ways, it chooses the one most suitable for its audience. If this were not so, the argument would be more abstruse than the conclusion. Note, for example, if the Qur'an, which guides people to divine truths, described the subatomic world in the phraseology of modern science, earlier generations could not have understood it. The Qur'an mentions natural phenomena to deduce the Creator's attributes. What is understandable to ordinary people is also more suitable for guidance. For example, the Qur'an says, "And of His signs is the creation of the heavens and earth, and the differences of your tones and colors." Behind the difference of colors lies God's creation of people with distinguishing marks and countenances. The Qur'an also says, "There are signs for God's existence and unity in the creation of the heavens and earth and the alternation of night and day." Earth's rotation on its axis and revolution around the sun is revealed under the sheets of night and day. The Qur'an says, "We have made the mountains as pegs." In this verse, Earth is likened to a ship sailing in the ocean of space, or a tent fastened and made steady with pegs, mountains, which cause Earth's wrath to subside. Otherwise, it would nearly burst with rage because of its inner convulsions. Earth also breathes through mountains. Without them, it would cleave apart, for it is by virtue of its mountains that Earth only quakes and then settles down. Mountains are reservoirs of water, filters for air, and protect land from the ocean's invasion. So, in a figurative meaning, mountains are pegs, pillars of life. The Quran considers ordinary people first. For example, Islamic law recognizes the sighting of the crescent moon to determine the beginning and end of Ramadan and the beginning of Dhul Hijjah, the month of Hajj, rather than astronomical calculation, and also contains reiterations to establish and repetitions to confirm. Know, O friend, that the Quranic verses are far richer in meaning than poetic imagination and far superior in every possible way. The one who speaks in the Quran describes his essential qualities and acts, whereas most poetry talks about others. The Quran is mostly extraordinary when describing the ordinary. Poetry is mostly ordinary when talking about the extraordinary. Know, O friend, that the mirrors reflecting and the pages of creation bearing witness to God's unity are infinite and multifarious, one within the other, and originate from the same center. Seeing one requires seeing the others. Unveiling one enables one to enter into all of them. If you cannot see one, this never means that the others are veiled or non-existent. Despite this, the carnal, evil-commanding soul, instructed by a Satan, denies what is essentially true and confirms what is essentially false. Know, O friend, that the one who writes the word writes the letter, the one who writes the line writes the page on which it appears, and the one who writes the page writes the book. Thus, the creator of an ant must be the creator of all animal species, and the creator of all animal species must be the Lord of the worlds. It is a sign of the absolute, all-encompassing lordship that a word or even a book is inscribed in a large letter. A sea is a large letter, and trees are lines of the book of the universe. Earth is a point in the whole universe. The Creator creates the word fish in the letter of the sea, and some earthly, moving creatures in the lines of trees and animals in the point of earth. One may think that a small ant would be neglected, but this is not true. Just as Surah Ya, Sin can be written within its initial letters Ya and Sin, so are creatures written in their eggs or seeds. Know, O friend, that the resemblance among stars and suns shows that their Lord cannot be like or one of them. The Lord of one of them is the Lord of all of them and of all things. O people, if only you were just and fair-minded in respect of what you suffer from such creatures as fleas and gnats. While those fine, innocent creatures bear with a perfect submission your biting of all fruits and most animals, is it fair to retaliate for even the slightest thing they inflict upon you? Know, O friend, that a person is a community formed of responsible organs and limbs. Each outer and inner sense has a particular form of worship, as it may be rebellious or sinful due to misuse. Prostrating before that which is not God is misguidance, as is the imagination of poets prostrating themselves before and adoring all beauty that is not God and not for his sake. Such things lead the imagination to transgress the limits established by God. Know, O friend, that one of the greatest causes of misguidance is the human tendency to regard something familiar as known because it is common and usual. However, this tendency may cause ignorance, for people do not reflect on such things, even though they are miracles of divine power. Rather, they pay attention to what they consider extraordinary because it is rare. This is like looking at the waves caused by wind and the seas shining with the sun's images without considering the whole sea with all its animals and flora. Then people attempt to mention those waves or images, not the animals and flora, as the proofs of the grandeur of the sea's owner and maker. Know, O friend, that most of what we know about Earth and consider evident is based on a superficial familiarity, a veil spread over ignorance and without foundation. Thus, the Qur'an draws our attention to the usual and the ordinary. With its piercing expressions, it draws aside the veil of superficial familiarity to show that what we see as usual and ordinary is in fact extraordinary. Know, O friend, that the relationship and conversation between two things do not require their being equal or similar to each other. A raindrop and a blossom have a relationship and transaction with the sun. Human beings should never suppose that their smallness veils them from the favoring of the Creator of all things. Know, O friend, that the expansion of time for some saints should not be regarded as impossible. For example, Imam Shahrani studied Ibn Arabi's 4-volume Al-Futuhat Mekkiyah 2.5 times in a day. This can be understood by the following examples. During a dream that lasts for a few seconds, you seem to have lived for a year. If you read the Qur'an during such a time, you could read it from beginning to end several times. Certain saints who can unveil what is hidden to other people experience such expansions of time while awake. They are as if acting in the sphere of the spirit, which is uncontained by time and almost with its speed. Motion is like time's body, or time is like motion's color, for whatever takes place in one takes place in the other. So, why should a saint whose bodily existence is dominated by his or her spirit not be able to move with the speed of the spirit or imagination? Know, O friend, that some people cannot comprehend the consequences of divine unity, and their corrupt imagination cannot bear them. They try to reject the authentic, decisive proofs that establish divine unity, and arguing that such proofs cannot give such a tremendous result, try to undermine their authenticity. They do not know that belief supports and leads to consequence, the proof being only a window through which to look at it, or a brush to sweep away the dust of illusions on it. Besides, there are as many proofs for divine unity as there are specks of dust in deserts, raindrops, and waves in the ocean. Know, O friend, that the one who prepares melons and apples for you to eat knows better than you what you need to eat and is aware of what pleases your conscience. Do the branches and stems of plants and trees know these things? Such means or causes of divine bodies are only channels of mercy and channels of bodies.